Hey guys, welcome back from Classic Work. I've had several requests over the years to show more of my 57 GMC, and I've got to change oil in it, so I thought that I would do a little overview and show you some of the cool things that we did back in 57 and how a good old American truck is made. So let's take a look at it and get started. Oh, here we go. I bet you're wondering, some of you new guys out there, what this is. Well, back in the old days, breather tubes used to vent right outside the vehicle. So that's coming from the valve cover. Come on out. The bad thing about the breather tube is, since they vent to the outside of the vehicle, all these old vehicles like this are just a giant oil stain on the pan and all over the side of the transmission. Here she comes. And due to that, it looks like you always had a leak, but the truth is you didn't. It just your breather tube blowing oil all over the side of the engine. I know some of y'all have probably already figured out, oh, it's a six banger, and that is the case. This here is the GMC's 270 straight six. They also went by a 4.4 liter, but everybody knew it by the 270. But pretty interesting motor here. It's tougher than nails. They use these in all sizes of vehicle. Everything from half-ton trucks like this one. They put them in 2-ton school buses. They put them in 2-ton trucks. 1.5 tons. They went in everything. They had good power and they had real good reliability. A couple interesting things about the motor. I still have the original oil bath air filter on here. For everybody who don't know out there, there's no paper in this filter. It's got about that much oil in it, and the air has to go through the oil before it can get to the carburetor. I don't know why we did away with them, other than they were messy and nobody ever changed the oil in them. But I like them. They're pretty bulletproof. You never have to change the filter, you just have to change the oil in them. So I think that's pretty cool. This here's an old Zenith 1-barrel carburetor. This here's a downdraft system, as you can tell. One real interesting thing about this motor, and my grandfather told me this, I had no idea, is the intake and the exhaust are both on the same side of the motor. You know, most vehicles, intake's on one, exhaust is on the other side. But I asked him why they did that. This is actually a 2-part frame that the intake bolts directly to the exhaust. And I asked my grandfather one day, I said, why did they do that? And he told me that the exhaust would heat up the intake so that the fuel would burn better faster, so the engine would warm up quicker. So I thought that was a really cool engineering standpoint of trying to figure that out. You may notice over here, you may can see it, there's a little old hose coming off the exhaust down there. That is an intake line that's going to the windshield wipers. The windshield wipers run off the vacuum of the motor. So if you hit the gas in a rainstorm, the windshield wipers will actually stop because all the vacuum goes to the carburetor. Very, very interesting. But some real cool things about them. GMC, I don't remember how long they made this motor. They were in a lot of different year models. Narrator will put some extra stuff in here somewhere up here. But pretty neat stuff. Okay, we're on the other side here now. And another cool thing about the 57 models, 57 was the first year that GMC put 12 volt in their trucks. Everything from 56 back was all 6 volt. So when you went to crank the motor, it was, it wasn't, it wasn't, didn't have the nice quick start. So first year for 12 volt, which was great, had 12 volt coil, 12 volt starter, 12 volt lights, much better than 6 volt in my opinion. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was interesting. Oh, this motor from the factory did not have an oil filter. So if you can tell, this here's the oil filter right here. This is an add-on. You had to buy this separately and put on the vehicle. So there are some vehicles out there that don't have an oil filter pretty much. I mean, from the factory, they're just like that. But this is the old canister style. You can tell I already loosened that up beforehand. But for all them folks out there that don't know, never seen a canister oil filter before, they're still used a fair amount in industry. A lot of old forklifts have them. Some tractors too. A good many tractors. That's a canister type. Let that oil drip off a little bit. But very, very interesting motor. It's got some quirks about it that you know, you just don't see anymore. You know, in my opinion today, vehicles don't have near as much personality. They still have some personality, but they don't have what these old vehicles have. And you know, they run better some days, they run terrible some days, but then they'll surprise you and it feels like they boost their horsepower by twice some days. It's crazy, especially the old vacuum carburetor style. There we go, get that out of here. I have tons of people ask me, can you still find parts for these old trucks? And the answer to that is yes. You can still probably find 80% of this truck even at your local parts store. I know that sounds kind of hard to believe, but there really ain't that much stuff on there. The only things that you can't find are, say, the oil bath, air cleaner. Probably be pretty hard to find a carburetor, and any of the intake and exhaust manifold, all that you really can't find. But other than other parts, you can still buy brand new points, plugs, wires, vacuum advance, all the starter parts, gaskets. I've completely put a whole new set of gaskets on this, valve cover, push rod, pan. I mean, they're really, really simple. You can still buy coils for them. I may have said that. But even body parts, they've remanufactured body parts for these trucks, so you can find parts for them. So oil filter here, in case anybody wants to know, this here is just a Napa Gold 1001. You can still find these. I bought this one brand new. And pretty cool stuff. Let's see if we can get it in there. You know, I just now realized how easy it is to change the oil in this truck. I feel kind of bad I've waited this long. Only thing I needed was a 3/4 wrench and a 5/8 wrench and a catch pan. No jack, no nothing. So faster too. Seemed like that was pretty quick. But anywho, for any guys out there that's having issues with, say, oil pressure or engine wear or anything like that, if you don't know about this, which I'm sure you do, Lucas oil stabilizer, Focus. There you go. This is some great stuff. I totally recommend it. This truck right here, you can see if you can watch it, it comes out super thick. This truck here has been plagued with, I think the camshaft bearings were wore in the motor, and consequently the truck has really low oil pressure. I remember when I first started driving it, I think when it warmed up it would have like maybe 8 pounds of pressure or something like that. And I asked my dad about it. My dad's a diesel mechanic. He's been one for about 40 years now, 40. And he said, oh, it's akin to a Detroit. Detroits can run 5 pounds of oil pressure and still run. It's pretty amazing. He said, run it, it'll be fine. But anyways, put this Lucas in here to stabilize it, and it boosts the oil pressure from 8 to about, I'd say, 17 when it's hot idling. So, and you could substitute more than a quart if you wanted to boost it even higher. So I totally believe in this stuff. This stuff works. But oh, another thing about these old engines, I know some of y'all probably don't know this, some of y'all probably do, is don't put a multi-weight oil in these engines. They wasn't designed with that back years ago, and they like straight weight. Put either 30 weight, 40 weight, something straight. Don't put no 10W30 or 5W30 or anything like that. Don't put no synthetic in them either. They're used to real oil, so put real oil back in them. Unless you completely rebuild the motor and it's designed to run in those parameters, I don't do it. Just saying. Oh yeah, our other rule of changing oil is always check, make sure you put your plug back in. as many times as I've done this, I've actually poured a whole quart of oil out on the ground more than once. You can hear it running through there now. So that's 5 quarts right here. There's 4 quarts in the quart of Lucas. So we got another 2 to put in there. Alright, she's in the safe zone on the stick. So I'm gonna crank her up and let her throw some oil up everywhere and check it again. Before we commit. Make sure there ain't no leaks. Sure we're okay. You hear that squalling? I've got a vacuum leak. It's on the intake on the back 6 back here. The head is actually warped where it ran with the exhaust leak for years. So that might be a future video one day. It still sounds good though. Other than that, here's something pretty cool. See if I can get a good shot of it. This here is the distributor down here. The distributor actually turns when the engine runs faster to advance the timing. So if you'll watch it, it's pretty cool. See it moving a little bit, just a tiny bit. That helps it on its timing. Hey, gum, that exhaust leak's terrible, but her vacuum leak. Check her oil one more time. See if she needs any. It's not quite at full. It's about right there on the stick. We'll put a little bit more. I don't want to overfill it. Tell you what, we'll leave it alone. It's better to have one just a shade low than too full, because then you'll start leaking out your rear main seal, and that ain't never good. Just gonna do a quick pan on the truck. I'm sure somebody wanted to see the front and the back. I don't think that's the original windshield in the truck. It sure does look like it because the rubber is dry rotting around it, but it'd be hard to say. My dad told me he never replaced it, and I'm sure the previous owner didn't either, so it might be. But we got a few little rust spots. I mean, heck, the truck's 58 years old, so if it made it this far in life without them, then that'd be a miracle, wouldn't it? If you notice, there's some green paint bleeding through the red. That was the original color of the paint, was that seafoam looking kind of green. I think back in '57, unless you custom ordered a color for your truck, that it was going to be that color. Because I've seen pictures of back then, and it seemed like every truck that they had on the road, even the 2-ton trucks and 1.5 tons, you know, wreckers and whatnot, they were all that color. So they must have had a jillion gallons of that paint to do that. But still had the original hubcaps for it, which I thought was pretty sweet. One other change my dad did was when he got it, the wooden bed that was in here originally was rotted out. So he got a piece of 1/4-inch diamond plate and put in there, which I think that was a good idea. Because that being outside most of its life would have killed the wood. It would have lost its finish in probably less than a year, and then it would have just rotted out again. So when I go back, I'll probably put wood back, but till then I like the steel. But we got a few other pretty bad little rust spots. Got one right here that's going down the back side of the inner fender, probably into the fender well as well. And then we've got one right here in the rib of the door. But other than that, there's a few dents in the both sides of the step side fender wells, but not too bad. I've had a fender bender in it once or twice, although you can't tell it. But it's still very, very sharp. A couple of things. I see a lot of people complain about the old gas tank behind the seat. Personally, I don't have a problem with it because, you know, technically if you were to have a wreck, that gas tank it can't be no safer. I mean, it's right up under your butt pretty much. So, or right behind you really. And the only thing I could see being a problem if you rolled the truck on its side or upside down, it would probably leak gas all over you. That'd probably be the only thing that I can think of. And it smells like gas, you know, when you get in the truck. Not all the time, but it does a good bit. But I mean, heck, if you drive something this old, you're going to have a mild case of carbon monoxide poisoning from the engine. So you got to suffer a little bit to drive these. You know, manual steering, manual brakes, manual clutch, manual transmission, everything about it is just super duper. You got to be tough. You got to be really freaking tough to drive something like this every day. And my hat's off to the people who did it. I mean, I guess we didn't know any better. I mean, we've gotten lazy nowadays with our automatic transmission, our cars that can park themselves. You know, this may be dumb technology to you, but our technology now is making us dumber, so what the heck. But anyways, that's just the outside. We'll take a look at the interior next. This here is the driver's side running board, and the passenger side is equally this bad. That whole panel's going to have to come out of there. But, and we got a pretty nasty hole right there next to the cab mount. But yes, this is anybody's noticed the clutch in there, this is a 3-speed on the tree, as they call it back in the day. Now I know some of y'all are probably confused out there, some of my generation. Yes, this is a column shift. So what the heck does that mean? Well, let's take a look at that and see. Okay, this is a 3-speed on the column. Now, I know the older generation out there is going to be like, heck yeah, that's what I learned to drive on. Well, sad truth is, 3-speed on the column is a long gone thing. I think the last one they put in was is either a Chevrolet or a GMC back in '84, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But these are kind of like bolt-action shotguns. They just don't exist anymore. And that's terrible. I hate it. You know, we've gone to vehicles now that are freaking 6 and 7 and 8 speeds now. You know, why in the world we need that many gears? You know, the old Power Glides were 2-speed automatics. You know, I don't think we need that many gears, but who knows. But anyways, 3-speed on the column for the folks out there who don't know. This is the same thing as just in the floor, except you've taken it from being flat and you've inverted it 90 degrees pretty much. The reason they did this was, you notice this cab is not very big at all. It was the first, Chevrolet and GMC were the first, I believe, in the US at least, to incorporate the 3-speed for the passengers to have more leg room. Back years ago, when you shifted, it wasn't no just boom, boom, boom. It was boom, boom. I mean, you had to, whoever was sitting in the middle, you were going to have bruised knees, pretty much. So, standard pattern is still the same, you just invert it 90 degrees. So, alright, we're in neutral right here. Okay? Now, this is a standard H transmission, is all it is. The trick to it is you've got to pick up the gear shift to get into your first and reverse gears. Now, what I've learned how to do is when you hit your clutch, take your thumb and rest it on the steering wheel in neutral, just pick the gear shift up and come straight back with it. When I was learning to drive, I was 16 years old, I learned on this truck. I'm probably one of the last people to actually learn on a 3-speed. And the trick to it is finding first gear. If you can find first gear, you're golden. I kept trying to take off in third and stall the engine out every time. So that's the trick. Thumb on steering wheel, pick the gear shift up. So you'll be going down the road, you'll pick up speed, you'll hit your clutch just like normal. You'll go back to neutral. If you'll listen, you'll hear it shift back down into its high range case, or that ain't really what it is, but you'll hear it go into its lower sector, and then you push it straight up and that'll go into second, and then you'll go down the road straight down to third. To get in reverse, you go back to neutral, put your thumb on the steering wheel, pick it up, and then push it forward like you're going into second, and that's reverse. So reverse, if you hold it up first, if you let it go down, second, third. So a lot of people see this and they're like, wow, I couldn't drive that. It's not hard at all. And I've heard people say that they shift slow, they shift just as fast as a standard in the floor. So there's nothing different about that other than it's on the column. And personally, I think it's awesome because this is stuff that you don't see every day. You know, it's, like I said, it's a bygone era and I hate it. And I'm going to tell you what, as long as I have this truck, this is going to stay in here. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for how shaky this is fixing to be. I think we'll be okay. Anything for a good shot. That's probably one of the most sketchiest camera rigs I've ever made. Hey, if it ain't held together with duct tape and zip ties, then it just ain't worth it. And C-clamps. Well guys, once again, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Leave a comment, like this video, subscribe to me if you hadn't already, and guys, I will see y'all next time. Y'all be good.